Welcome to the According to Weeze podcast with me, your host, Louisa Duran, more affectionately known as Weeze. I believe that liberation requires of us the ability to imagine, to reimagine what is into what could be. It requires us to think outside of what is currently possible, to become architects of possibility. So in each episode, we'll candidly examine and explore everything from pop culture to current events and hot topics through this lens. So get cozy, get comfy, and let's dive in. Rugged individualism is a cornerstone of supremacy culture and dominance culture. It has taken over the concept of protecting your peace to the point where it's like, I don't owe anyone anything. I get to be cold and heartless. I get to prioritize me and only me. I cut people off quick. And it's like celebrated as though your ability to turn your back to human beings for your quote unquote peace because you're stressed or it's inconvenient it should be a fucking gold star. Like that's how we should be treating people.
I recently had joined this Facebook group for women about dating, and I was just reading through awful advice that women give each other about dating. But and one of the things that was like really upsetting to see actually is how many people I think it's totally acceptable, celebrate and encourage each other to be like, cut him off, girl, block him. Like, so the same way that you're saying lead with curiosity is also like, maybe just lead with a little effort to just see if someone's okay. Or like, we're not out here trying to make excuses for people, but it can't be like we've talked about this before. Everything is not all these polarities, this or this or this or this, right? We can do pattern recognition. We can understand certain behaviors usually mean this, this, or this. But the other thing is when we're denying each other's humanity, when we're just like blocking people and cutting people, and listen, that's an okay thing to do. We know when it's an okay thing to do, but it's just too much, right? People not wanting to talk to someone anymore. Like you don't have to like block them unless they're bothering you. You know, you could just say, no, thank you. And then if someone keeps coming, fine. But like, even energetically, the idea, like blocking, you know, it reminds me of, remember the Jamie Foxx show back in the day when he'd be like with his hand? Like, I feel like we're all just like, talk to the fucking hands without being like, are you okay? And not that we need, and it's interesting too, because a lot of these narratives about whose labor, what labor are we doing for who or whatever. I was telling you, I think before we started recording, one of the things that I've been really thinking about lately, because I really feel it within myself, is this like vibrational resiliency, where my vibe is not so fragile that somebody else having a bad day is going to fuck up mine, right? I could be around more people now. I was more sensitive. It was more fragile at different times in my life. And fragile in this context is not like when we're calling people like male fragility, white fragility. It's like, I really do mean it in the genuine, like sometimes when we're going through shit or whatever, our vibration, our energy, whatever, our centeredness will be a little more fragile because we're stretched, right? But there's also times when we're like fortified and we're good and like we have it to give. And it's just, I feel like so much of what people are pointing their arrows at other people, taking people down, out, this, that, the other thing, all this energy goes towards that instead of like working that vibrational resiliency so we could be together more. We could be with people.
Yeah. And I think we have to start making a distinction between this person is actively causing me harm.
Yep.
And so I need to protect my peace from them. Versus I have to have a hard conversation with somebody and I have to admit that
this. I'm uncomfortable.
Right. I'm uncomfortable. Or even I have to have a hard conversation and I'm not good. That feels like confrontation to me. And that is hard for me. And having a little bit of self-awareness. Or even with the context of blocking, like I see and I hear even my friends and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like they'll be like, oh, I just blocked them. And I'm like, did you prior to that clearly communicate a boundary that they continued to violate? No. So then why are you blocking them? Of course they're going to continue to hit you up because first of all, people are not mind readers. And like, I actually said this, I voice sent a voice memo to Tammy this morning because we like have been taking 7 days to respond to each other's text message. And there was that moment of like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. I was like, listen, unless you tell me that there's a reason for your silence that's negative because I did something or you don't want to talk to me, my assumption is you are busy, you are tech overwhelmed, you... Like my little ADHD ass will be like, oh, I really meant to respond, but then I saw a butterfly or whatever else happened. And then I put my phone down. And then 4 days later, I was like, oh shit, I forgot to reply to that text message. Right.
Yes.
Like I actually assume positive intent always. I assume positivity because guess what? I know that I move righteously. I don't hurt nobody. And if I do, it's not intentional. And I've built relationships with people to where they would feel comfortable letting me know like, hey, that hurt my feelings, or I didn't like that, or I felt slighted by that, or whatever the case is. Right.
Yeah.
So guess what? People are not mind readers. If you're just not responding, even if y'all have a fight, grow the fuck up and say, hey, I still need some time. I need some space. I don't really want to talk to you right now. I'll reach back out when I do.
Yeah.
Right? Or giving people the space to be, like you said, stretched. Is your friend depressed? Are they dealing with a lot on their plate? It's not personal. It's not about you. Right? And we really need to actually go back to infusing the concept of protecting your peace with all of the liberatory elements from which it was born. Community care, co-created consent, right reciprocal relationship, co-created experiences, effective and honest and vulnerable communication, transparency, and boundaries, right? Naming when you don't have capacity for something. Even if a friend comes to you and is like, hey, I'd like you to hold XYZ for me. You know what? I ain't got it. I wish I could. I love you. If it really gets like dire straits, I am here, but I got XYZ going on. Like I can't, I can barely show up for myself.
Yeah, man. And here's what I'm big on too, though, because this feels reciprocal to me, even if it's not explicit reciprocity, is matching people's energy. You know, like
say more.
We have some mutual friends and have had some mutual friends who we've shifted relationships with over the years. Mm-hmm. And for me, one of those things, it's always an incredible indicator to me. I've been doing this for years. When I start to notice and feel like a relationship is out of balance, before I say anything, I will just start matching their energy and seeing what happens. Because if I'm already overextending myself, I'm not going to further overextend myself with some kind of like conversation that may or may not be necessary. But if I start matching the energy and it fizzles right out, that's actually all I needed to know.
Yeah.
If that relationship was dependent on me overextending myself, I don't need to have a hard conversation about that. Because if that person notices and cares enough to come and be like, yo, are we good? Like, what happened, right? But if they just like fade right out and off, that's all I needed to know. So part of it is also efficiency and effectiveness, which I think you already said. That like, and it's not that people don't all deserve something, but like you said, sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. And sometimes the writing is on the wall and I don't need to go above and beyond to like beat a dead horse when it's very fucking clear what's happening.
Yeah. But I think you named something important, right? So if this person reaches back out and is like, hey, I noticed that you shifted your energy. Something's going on. It feels a little weird. You haven't been reaching out. Can we talk about it?
Yeah. Or like, you good? Like, what's happening?
Or you good? Like, yeah, you straight? You good? If that happens, then you would have a conversation.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even a full conversation. Just like, hey, okay, I got to name this thing. Like, I pulled back because you be on bullshit. Like, we're not, there's no reciprocity here. You don't show up for me. I feel like I'm overextending myself. And to be clear, like you said, we have pattern recognition. So we know when this is somebody's character trait, when this is how they move in the world versus they also are like, there's a shift. Because if that had been the case, it wouldn't have been let me pull back. It would have been let me check on them because I'm noticing that they are showing up differently, right? We approach these things in a way as though like we have zero, and granted, I know that nuance and multiplicities are hard for people to hold, but we approach these situations as though we are completely incapable of noticing shifts in people's behaviors and patterns and the way that they show up, or just recognizing that this is fundamentally who you are, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Andrews said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them, right? Like, granted, the quote is longer, but that's what she said.
Yeah.
So when someone shows you who they are, you adjust And like you said, if it fizzles out, it fizzles out. And this is actually, I'm going to quote, because I don't remember who said it. I posted it yesterday in my stories because this is so true. So the good quote posted it. I don't know, whoever runs that page. And it doesn't say anything other than that. But it says, allow people to be who they are. Let them show up how they choose. Then you decide if that is enough for you, your move. So I used to say, instead of matching energy, I mean, it's conceptually the same thing. My phrase is, I act accordingly.
Yeah, I always think about when you say that.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, I act accordingly. How you show up, because I know how I move. I know that fundamentally the way that I operate in the world is rooted in the ethos and frameworks of liberation, not only that I teach, but that I have learned from, right, those that have come before, that have passed the baton to us. And so because of that, I know how I show up. I know what kind of friend I am, chosen family member, whatever the case is. And so I'm seeing how you move and how you show up. I'm just going to act accordingly. And my other favorite quote, and I'll just make it shorter, it's a Pac quote, right? And he says, he's like, just because I don't want you to eat at my table anymore doesn't mean I have beef with you. Effectively.
A thousand.
Right? I mean, it's a lot longer, but he's essentially saying like, he's like, I still want you to be good. I just don't want you to eat at my table anymore because I can't fuck with you.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a lot of people Dr. Dre energy. It's like, you are no longer in my life. I don't even have beef with you. If I saw you in the street and you said, hello, what's up? How are you? Right? But keep it pushing.
I posted something the other day, which was a recycled post from like 3 years ago that was like, it's okay to just not like some people. And not liking people doesn't wish you mean them harm.
Yeah.
You're just not messing with people. Like, and we got to trust ourselves about that stuff. Because again, there's so many levels and layers to this stuff. We don't need to be questioning why, analyze. Again, like the navel gazing, who has time anymore? Again, like I feel like two things happened in the last 10, 12 months. I turned 40 and I've been watching a live stream genocide. And I feel like the number of sentences I start with, I'm 40 now and we're watching a live stream genocide. Like, these are my reasons for not fucking around with stuff that's not worth my time, energy, or attention anymore. That I was unclear that those things weren't worth my time, energy, attention. And I'm like, oh, no. I'm not messing. The number of things I'm not messing with anymore and investing anything into. When this is the world has gotten here because we've all allowed ourselves and participated in being so distracted and distractible by so much bullshit that does not matter. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's I think one of the biggest divestments that we could do is our attention on things that don't matter. And I don't mean like stop watching TV, stop doing this. Like, our brains need rest, right? We need fun, we need joy. Like, I watched friggin' Bridgerton yesterday, 4 episodes of Bridgerton, you know, like,
oh my God, I haven't watched it yet.
I have opinions, but whatever.
I'll text you as soon as I do.
I need it live. I love when people live tweet me. You, my friend Suyapa, and my friend Brandy, or I'm like, send me your live texts as you watch, please. And it's hilarious. It's part of the joy. But even that, right? Like, this is actually creating connection. We're co-regulating, like we're being like, and also we're doing something else. So there's a great way I've been thinking about things is like, is there connective tissue here or not? Are we bone on bone here? Like, or is this just like, we're like grinding against something that isn't, why would we be doing this? Like, there's no healing here. There's no connection here. It's not fun, or it's not like, and everything being, so like you were saying, being in the struggle, being in whatever, the number of people, especially that I see online, unfollowing this, that, making comments because people are not martyring themselves and their lives for shit. I'm like, we've been learning. That shit solves nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from firsthand experience that a great way to drive yourself into a mentally depressive and physically ailed state is only focusing on the movement for several years, over and over and over again, to your own detriment, in a world where, unfortunately, you also still have to figure out how to pay bills. You still have to deal with all the bullshit. Like, I said this on a previous podcast episode. I was like, I'm not dying for this shit.
Totally.
I'm not. My ancestors literally, I mean, whether you like go watch the TED Talk, right? It was the first apartheid state before we had the word for it. Like, massive genocide over hundreds of years. Like they literally died for this shit. Like they didn't die so that I could run my humanity, my joy, and my joie de vivre into the ground.
This.
For the sake of what? Hoping that white folks get on board?
Absolutely not.
I'm not doing it.
You and I have talked about this. I don't know that I shared this anywhere, but I'm comfortable sharing this because I feel like there might be other people here, whether you're mixed / multiracial or whatever your identity is and whoever your ancestors were. Mine literally sat me down about 2-3 months ago now, gave me a talking to that was like, hey, you have more freedom and choices than any of us have ever had in the history of our family. And it was all of them. It was like, because I have many lineages, and they were like, time for you to live, baby. Mm-hmm. They were like, what we need you to do next is like fully live. Yeah. And they're like, it's okay. Like the way you want to fight, you want to resist, live. Mm-hmm. Yes. And, you know, that's not like a new message. It's not like we've never heard that anywhere before. But the way it came through, because showing me, right? Because they also, you know how they show you things. And I was like, damn, even anything in my life that's hard is not nearly as hard as anything in their life that was hard.
Yep.
And I know that's not true for everyone listening. I'm sure people listening, there's some shit you go through that's worse than anything else. But for me personally, and listen, some of that is absolutely connected to privilege. I'm going to tell you how much of it is because I've worked my fucking ass off on healing in a way most people don't and won't. And so that was also, they were coming in like, do you understand what you've been doing here? Do you see like what you've cleared out? And then literally this was so validating the other day. I mean, some people I'm sure listening are not into astrology, but my favorite astrologer, who I follow on Instagram, and I have a reading coming up with him soon. It's Jonathan L. Dent. He posted something about how people who have
Is he the one who signs while he talks?
No.
Oh.
Who's that guy? I don't remember that guy's name.
I don't remember his name. Anyways, okay.
I'll send it to you. And actually, if you want to put in the show notes, because I think people would love him. Yeah. And he integrates a lot of like what's going on in the world with the astrological transits and stuff like that. But he posted something in his stories. He was answering questions, and someone was like, you know, what placements do you love or something like that? And he was like, people who have their North Node and their Chiron is the wounded healer, conjunct are usually like spiritual warriors who are here to like really, really clear out some ancestral karmic stuff. And I'm like, hi.
Like, that's me.
I have that. I was like, oh, damn, this shit is even in the chart, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just the intensity of everything is like, none of us get to not have intense experiences. But how are we going to be with each other while we're having them, you know?
Yeah, that part. Like, I think so one of the things I haven't written about when I was talking about, you know, Dr. Dre Energy 2024, one of the reasons that I made that commitment to conserve and to like have that energy with the people that deserve it is that I made the commitment that I wanted to be a soft place to land for myself and for the people that I love.
Yes.
You know what I mean? For the people that deserve to be in my life. Because we're in right reciprocal relationship. And I don't mean deserve like in that weird, gross way, but just in the way that like they continue to show up for me, right? They show up for me the way I show up for them. I'm like, I want to be a soft place to land for you. I want to be a soft place to land for myself, right? So for me, I really keep coming back to this, like protecting your peace isn't, first of all, anytime you are replicating any element of the cornerstones of supremacy culture, stop it right now. Guaranteed you're doing it. No, you know, a lot of times we're like, nuance, you can't do it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Anytime you're bringing that shit into liberation, you're doing it wrong. Just stop it right now, right? So that's one. Two, if you think that protecting your peace is just the like boundaries or the, you know, the like pushing people away or like
not hanging out with people who drain you.
You're doing it wrong. For me, this season, and because also, right, it evolves. As you evolve as a human, the things that you need to maintain your peace, and when you talk about peace, that's a cute way of saying your regulation.
Yeah.
your nervous system being balanced, being able to come home to yourself, right? So you can protect your peace in singular moments, right? When people try you, or maybe you are having an emotional reaction, or you're bothered, you're frazzled, you're triggered, fine. Or in a larger sense, right? And so for me, protecting my peace, and I really have made myself my commitment to myself this summer has been exactly what you said, honoring not just my ancestors and what they've gone through, but honoring those who do not have, even right now, the privilege, right? TED Talk, right to dream, that do not have the right to dream in the way that we do by living into the fullness of my life and
Yep.
the joy and the love and the experiences and the happiness, right? Does that mean, and we had this conversation, does that mean taking significant pay cuts because you're not taking on certain clients and you're making more space and all those other things? Absolutely. Do I still live in California? Also, yes. Is life inflation real? Uh-huh.
It is.
But I've never ever been happier. My soul is
man.
happy. Like, my soul is happy.
That's the highest priority. That's the most important relationship. I wrote down 2 things while you were talking. When people talk about, I can't spend time with them, it's draining. Maybe try making it less about the other person and ask yourself, why are you so drainable? There's some work we got to do if we're so drainable, easily drained. And that's not meant to be like a gotcha. That's meant to be like, seriously, look at it. Because
it's just a great question to ask yourself.
I'm a sensitive person. I'm a highly sensitive person. I have certain like sensory sensitivity things. So like, even when I went to Egypt a couple months ago, I'm like, noise canceling headphones are my best friend. You know, like I need that shit. I let people know, like, I'm not ignoring you all. I just can't, I'm overstimulated. Like, once we get back on the bus, I'm not here anymore, you know, like, and that's what I needed to do to be able to travel in a group of people. That's why I don't do group travel, you know? So you need to tend to yourself, know yourself and tend to yourself so you don't have to be making your problems other people's problems, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know what would help a lot of people protect their peace? Learn some conflict resolution skills. Because if more people were just able to have conversations, like you and I don't know if we were recording, I was chatting about like friends of mine, I had to have a tough conversation with them and then they kind of just faded out on me. And I'm like, this isn't intimacy. This isn't real friendship. Obviously you didn't like what I had to say or whatever, but there was they were basically like, cool, anything else? And then like, I stopped hearing from them. And it was like, okay, like, thanks for letting me know after like 11, 12, I've known these people for over a decade. Yeah. And it's like, or you could be like, that was really uncomfortable for me, or I didn't like it. Or like you said, like, listen, I'm feeling weird. Like I need some space. But like, you really just gonna not say anything, like, but then act like it's not real obvious what you're doing.
Yeah. I think,
don't be out here talking about connection and relationships though when you're behaving like that.
Right. I think what it really, like, if I could synthesize all of this for folks, it's like protecting your peace fundamentally requires you to figure out how to be in intimate connection and community.
Yeah.
And if you cannot do that, if you cannot maintain connection and community in the midst of your peace protection, it's because you're doing it wrong. Yeah. It's because you're actually not protecting your peace. It's because you are weaponizing the concept in order to continue to reinforce systems of dominance and hierarchy and individualism and coldness and dehumanization, because that's not how it works. And again, big asterisks, like, we're not talking about, I'm going to say this differently. Big asterisks. Not everybody deserves to be in your life, right? So that's a different situation. You 1000% are allowed to say, you know what? That person actually just isn't good for me.
It's
right.
The word I always love illuminating and giving to people, it's incompatible.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's such a neutral way. I don't need to talk shit. I don't need to judge. I don't need to position me, you, whatever. Right. It's like, this is not compatible. It's not workable. That's okay.
I like to say we are two pieces of a different puzzle.
I love that. I want to say one more thing about when you were saying about living into your life fully, which this
Yeah.
is where our TEDx talks dovetailed, because I talked about sacredness and weaving
Yeah.
sacredness. And one of the things that I really tried to paint the picture of is like, we are all, I even used like a visual, this beautiful artist, Autumn Sky Morrison, of these literal sacred weavers weaving a tapestry over the world, is like, we are all a thread in a tapestry. So what is reverberating out? What is radiating, resonating out in your thread? If it's only struggle, anger, aggression, this, that, the other thing, like other people's threads kind of gotta compensate for yours, right? So like
Yeah.
your joy, your peace, whatever, that is not when I just want people to like kind of feel this image or metaphor, however you want to take it, that like when you are satisfied, you feel safe, you feel happy, healthy, joyful, whatever, that is resonating and reverberating out to the rest of us. It
Mm-hmm.
really, we are interconnected like that. That
Mm-hmm.
actually is how it works, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And when
Yeah.
you're, doing dirty shit, we're all feeling that too. And we all go through our different phases and stages, but damn, if you have access to the joy and the satisfaction, please let yourself have it.
Oh yeah. I'll be the first one to say 2020, 2021. I don't know how much fun I was to be around. Just honestly, just because
Okay.
I was so, I mean, I've been in some iteration of liberation work for like 13 plus years. I don't even know. Whoa, I'm older than that. It doesn't matter. We're not going to tell you how long I've been doing it.
Weeze math.
Yeah, right. Weeze math is being just vague enough for you not to figure out that I'm almost 40. Actually, I don't fucking care because the closer I get to 40, the
The
more I
best.
like
I can't wait
love
till you cross the
myself.
threshold.
I know. I'm like, could we do it already? It
That's
helps
how I
that
felt.
nobody thinks I'm also 40 because recently, I'll say this, I am reversing backward or I'm aging backwards in terms of the way that people engage with me. And this is I'll say this and then we'll talk about your wild soul tour and then we'll be done because this is a perfect physical manifestation of what we're talking about. So I have been in the work in some way, shape, or form for damn near 20 years plus, right? I actually, my first protest, I was 6 and it was for Palestine. I'll never forget. But my first, like, I grabbed the mic, it was right after 9/11. That's when I started my journey in this way, shape, or form. And I used to think, because I hadn't liberated myself yet. I used to think that the badge of honor was like martyring myself for the cause. And that meant a lot of things over a long period of time. But ultimately, what it meant was that I had become a shell of myself. I
Mhm.
couldn't even access my own joy. Like, I'm hilarious. You know, I'm
Hilarious.
funny. I couldn't find the joke. Like, imagine me
No,
not
I
having a
can't.
punchline. I couldn't
No.
find it. I couldn't fucking find it. I couldn't find it. You couldn't have paid me to find it because I couldn't access it. I was a true shell of myself. And it took me 2.5 years of like, first, not even healing, just being like, my version of protecting my peace was like, I'm just going to let myself be. I'm going to accept. That was my
Mhm.
first iteration of it, right? And it has evolved to many things. But I say that to say a couple years ago, the way that people interacted with me, I was very much getting like ma'am energy, right? It was like, well, you know, and now we've gone back to miss energy. And not that that actually means anything other
Yeah,
than
yeah.
how
And I get
people
what you're
engage
saying
with you.
though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as I have reclaimed my peace and reclaimed my own humanity and fully divested from martyrdom and the work that I had to do to accept, I'll never forget the day that I looked my therapist in her face and I said, am I a sellout?
Mhm.
And thank God that I have a Black woman as a therapist. I made that commitment a long time ago too, right? Because I was like, dear white women, I'm sure you're lovely at your job. Not for me.
Just not for me.
Not for me. I literally like, it was 2022. And I said, if I do this, am I a sellout? And she was like, would you rather grapple with the concept of being potentially a sellout, which obviously she then ran me through all the things I was doing even just at that time. She was like, no, but still, right? Like she was like, would you rather grapple with that or all of the health problems that you are already like now, right? Like your soul will inform your body and all of these health problems and lack of mobility and depression and, you know, my CPTSD and PTSD were kicking up real hard, like all of those things. She was like, would you rather grapple with that, which nobody would call you except for yourself, right? I don't have imposter syndrome. I have, am I a sellout syndrome, right? Versus or an inability to actually just live your life and enjoy life. And like, that's what I needed to hear. Right. So I've still been connected to humanity. In fact, I've been connecting even deeper to my people as I protect my peace. Right. Because that is a life force for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if anyone takes anything from this, it's like protecting your peace absolutely requires that connection. It requires a connection to yourself. It requires a connection to other people. It requires a prioritization of joy and rest and love and fun and all of those other things. And you are living for others who cannot live for themselves because of the way that our society has robbed them of their actual life or their humanity.
Yep. And getting people in the right seats in your life.
Yep.
Because sometimes it's not, we have to cut a connection. It's like, I let this person in too close. Yep. Or actually, like you and I, we've gotten much closer over the last like year even.
Yep.
And I'm like, damn, me, like Weeze is the best. Like this bitch got on a plane for my 40th birthday for 36 hours. You know, I was like, she likes me like that. It's great. Yeah. Like recognize all that stuff. It's important. It's important. Like that's how we get through and that's how we keep going, right? Because the sacrifice and the martyring ourselves, people are being martyred, okay?
Literally.
Like, we don't have to choose it. And we should not. I actually think it's quite blasphemous to choose it. When it's
That's actually, so that was my message from my ancestors. Yep. That was my message from my ancestors.
It's almost
that
like,
was
how
my wake
dare
up
you?
call. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was like, we were not robbed of our, first of all, like our ability to live full lives, but also just our literal lives. And some of us, I have family members who, you know, were martyred in the revolution, as well as just over the 100 years of genocide. But that was their message, was basically like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to choose this. Kind of like yours said, like, go choose life. Choose life, choose joy, choose the ability to flex the freedoms that you have that we never did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That being said, a lot of this ties into Wild Soul and the Wild Soul movement and the way that you teach. And you are going on an in-person tour that I think everybody should come and take a peek at if they are in the city. It's the Wild Soul Tour 2024. Shirts TBD. I actually just said that. I don't know that that's happening. It just felt right.
Because I don't even know, like, it's funny because you know how I roll. I'm like, hey, I'm doing a tour. And people are like, where are your classes? I'm like, I got one booked in Washington, D.C. I'll figure the rest out. Like, I just had to hit the road and get started, you know? Like, but I'm going to be all up in the Northeast for most of July, August, September, October. Then I'm going to be in Europe, Spain, Portugal, and the UK. Then when I come back in January, I think I'm going to come do West Coast tour in January.
I was going to say, maybe we should do a little ATW, Liberatory, Wild Soul collab.
We're gonna. It's happening. Probably
so
January.
Where would you like the people to go if they would like to stay connected? Is Instagram where you're doing the things, or is your Substack, the newsletter?
Instagram is good because it's untameyourself.com/links. My one link in my bio on Instagram is always going to have a list of where everything's happening. And I'm actually cool. Yeah. So I'll have it up.
So the links for all of the things will be in the show notes.
Great. Yeah.
And then on the ATW website.
Great. That master link, untameyourself.com/links. And then for tour, like classes where I'm teaching and stuff, wildsoulmovement.com. I just wanted to make a simple website where people could just go to book classes and stuff. So
perfect.
Yeah, we'll be out here. And it's for everybody. All genders are welcome. Ages 13 plus. Come move your soul.
I was going to say, move your body and your soul, y'all. What I did not say earlier before we wrap, so I did tell y'all that there was going to be like a pivot in how the show is, what we're doing on the show. It's not just going to be strictly interview style. There's going to be solo episodes. There's also just going to be me bringing amazing people that I love and love having conversations with onto the show. And so Elizabeth is going to be a recurring guest co-host situation. Y'all may know, she had her own podcast, which has been retired. Do you want to quickly talk about?
It was called Embodiment with Elizabeth DiAlto. And when we came up on the 9-year anniversary, I was like, 9 is a number of completion and I feel complete.
And now
we have a new podcast coming out at the end of the summer with my friend Alicia Halpin, Alicia Tischel, called Mystical Aunties. So that's going to be, and similarly, it's going to be Alicia and I, but then we'll have some people rotating in, some other, it's like having a council of mystical aunties. Cause we love, like, I have all these like child-free friends, like we're not just like aunties in our life, but there's like that thing about the auntie that auntie will give it to you in a way nobody else will,
It's the auntie energy. That's why I have my auntie energy sweatshirts. I'm an actual auntie, but also.
Yeah. So I'm excited, but I was glad. I'm so proud of the show, and there's so much power in like retiring something and being like, it's just complete. Nothing's wrong. I don't hate it. I actually love it, appreciate it. I even have people out here like, this feels like when Oprah stopped doing the show. I'm like, listen, don't even put me in a category like that. But thank you. But that is crazy pants, but I love you. But it was some people's Monday morning ritual for like 9 years. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being here for this one, because there will be many more. I love you too. Folks, check out all of the stuff in the show notes. It's going to be jam-packed with links to everything that we have mentioned. Check out that Wild Soul Tour 2024, and definitely peep us on Patreon for some BTS about titty hugs and all sorts of other things that just didn't make the show. Just titties everywhere.
Story of my life.
All right, y'all. Until next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It would mean the world to me if you could show me some love by sharing the show, rating, and leaving a review. And if you want to dig just a little bit deeper into community, join me over on Patreon. Subscribe to the Substack for more Weezisms, or you can find me on the socials at According to Weeze. All right, y'all. That's all I got. Until next time.